I'm like gonna vent again, so this might be a bit of a tiresome stream, but let's get to it anyhow. And I heard some time ago that some people are really abusing their OKU or handicapped person cards, and like one major example was some people, someone attended an event and then they got very handsy with some other people and touchy, and then like when people protested, they pulled out their OKU card and said like, oh, I'm handicapped, you've got to like be understanding, you can't arrest me, you shouldn't try and stop me. I'm not sure what the exact story was, because I've heard like two or three versions of the same story, and one version said they were just trying to prevent getting arrested, and the other one, they said they tried to insist that they keep going, which is really scary. But this isn't the only example that I've heard of it. Now, before I go on, I would like to say that these bad actors are a very, very, very minor percentage. But the trouble is that people remember those bad actors, even though it's like less than 1% of the OKU population. People tend to remember those bad actors, and it gives like everyone a bad name. It just taints the entire system. And so in general, for instance, for those who have autism, they have OKU cards because of autism. They are generally all very nice people on the most part. For instance, they do not abuse their OKU cards to get handicap parking. In general, people who are autistic have the conscience and they basically have conscience, and they just say, my legs work fine. I'm going to park in a normal parking spot instead of taking up the handicap parking, even though they even though people with autism have an OKU card and legally they can park in handicap parking. We don't. They don't do so. They the vast majority are actually good people who just park in proper designated parking spots for normal people, because they just say like, my legs work fine, I'll just leave the handicap parking for those who really need it. And of course, on that subject, there are always a few jokers who don't have OKU cards at all, who just park in handicap parking spots, which that's not great. Don't do that. Don't do that, folks. On a lesser extent, no, actually, sorry, it's not lesser extent. Actually, it's possibly a bigger, even bigger problem, come to think of it. There are parents who let their kids get away with all sorts of bad behavior on the reason that they are neurodivergent. And that is really bad, because neurodivergent kids will eventually grow into neurodivergent adults. And they really need to learn how to fit into society. So teaching them bad habits, like telling them that you can just keep behaving badly, that's not going to help them in the long run. And enabling bad behavior is really not a good idea. So for neurodivergent kids, you have to teach them twice as hard or three times as hard as normal kids. Even I'll sympathize, because I don't have kids on my own, but I know that even bringing up normal kids can be a real pain. It can be really exhausting to teach them to behave themselves. So teaching neurodivergent kids to behave themselves can be like many times worse. But it is just one of those things that you have to suck up and do, because otherwise they are going to grow up into really badly behaved individuals. And the thing is, so many of these parents say, oh, well, they can't help it because they're neurodivergent, which is not really true, because my brother has a PhD in early education and special education, and yeah, generally, if you teach them from an early age, they turn out much better than if you do not teach them at all. Um, I should go and get my Captain Obvious hat, but this is true not just for neurodivergent kids, but for all kids in general. If you teach them early, they turns out better than if you do not teach them at all, or if you teach them late. So yeah, teach good habits from an early age, and that will help a lot. Now, I have seen, though, other than neurodivergence, I have seen cases of people taking advantage of their handicap status, or rather, what happened before was my grandpa was in a pushchair and a powered chair, and he was really old, like close to 100. And when we went shopping in like a store, he like sort of would not be very careful where he was driving, and he would knock into stuff in, like, those piles of boxes in the middle of the aisle. Oh, he would sometimes run into them, and then he would say like, oh, well, it's their fault for not making the place disabled friendly. um of course, like, his family members, i.e. me and other family members, would like rearrange the boxes and put everything back. But it wasn't good. But I honestly found myself like making excuses, saying like, oh, he's like 90 something, he's like going a little bit senile, or rather quite senile. But that was like, yeah. Anyhow, at that age, I couldn't scold him. I just did my best to fix the damage and then apologized profusely and moved on. But yeah, anyhow, sorry to the storekeepers who had to put up with this sort of thing from us, and thanks for your patience. But yeah, that was gonna just be a short event, and thanks for listening. Um, just wanted to get it off my chest that, yeah, I really feel that I mean, in some cases, really, literally, uh, being handicapped can be a crutch. That's fair enough. But sometimes it shouldn't be. Sometimes there are people in this world who, even though they are handicapped, that just gives them the incentive to work twice as hard as everyone else and overcome their handicaps. If you just use your handicap as a crutch, life is, I mean, there are some handicaps that you can overcome and some that you can't. And I think like if it's something that you can work towards overcoming, then please do so, because your life will be better, other people will be happier. It's win-win all around, rather than just like abs- of course, if it's something that you can't do anything about, then I mean that's fair enough. But yeah, the TLDR is if you have a handicap, but it's something that just makes things harder, but you can somehow do your best to overcome it, then yeah, I think that it's probably better to try and overcome your handicaps rather than just wallowing in misery. And thanks for listening. This is Jason Red 9 signing off.